Good morning.
Good morning.
I will call the meeting of the Louisville Metro Air Pollution Control Board to order. The first thing we have on our agenda, we have a public hearing. This public hearing is held pursuant to KRS Chapter 77 and District Regulations. Notice of this hearing has been published pursuant to state law. All statements must be presented today. All statements should be concise. If you have a written version of your statement, please submit it to Mrs. Hamilton after your presentations. All statements will become a part of the hearing record. There are 10 amended regulations to be reviewed today. Would the staff please submit the 10 amended regulations?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, the district brings for your consideration today proposed amendments to 10 regulations. I'm going to go through all of them at once. Let me know at the end if anybody has any questions. Regulation 1.02, definitions, version 15, amends the definition of volatile organic compound to incorporate by reference the federal definition found at 40 CFR 51.100 S1. Regulation 1.04, performance tests, version 7, amends the regulation to specify requirements for valid performance testing by adding a new section that lays out the requirements for a test report and by clarifying the required timeline for notifications. Stick with me, I've been suffering from a cold the past couple of days, I need to catch my breath. Regulation 1.15, version of federal regulations incorporated by reference, version 20, updates the date of the version of Code of Federal Regulations, CFR, incorporated by reference. Regulation 6.13, standard of performance for existing storage vessels for volatile organic compounds, version 8, updates the threshold for monitoring requirements to match the lower limit in the applicability of that regulation. Regulation 7.12, standards of performance for new storage vessels for volatile organic compounds, version 8, updates the threshold for monitoring requirements as well to match the lower limit in the applicability. Regulation 6.21, standard of performance for existing gasoline loading facilities at bulk terminals, version 3, removes the requirement for tanker trucks loading at bulk terminals to possess a valid Kentucky pressure vacuum test sticker and instead replaces it with specific vapor tightness and record-keeping requirements. Regulation 7.20, standard of performance for new gasoline loading facilities at bulk terminals, version 3, does the same thing as Regulation 6.21, removing that sticker requirement. Regulation 6.31, standard performance for existing miscellaneous metal parts and products, surface coating operations, version 7, and Regulation 7.59, standard performance for new miscellaneous metal parts and products, surface coating operations, version 7. Both of those update to clarify that the exemption is only as to the standards in the regulation and not as to the record-keeping requirements. And finally, Regulation 7.02, adoption of federal new source performance standards, is updated to add the new source performance standard for municipal solid waste landfills. It's the district's recommendation that these amendments be adopted by the board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does anyone from the public wish to make a statement regarding these 10 amended regulations? Are there any questions by any board member regarding the 10 amended regulations? There have been no further statements or questions. This public hearing is adjourned. So we will go right into the regular board meeting. We do have a quorum. Are there any introductions, Mr. Chapman?
No, Chair.
Public recognitions?
No, sir.
Most of the minutes have been submitted. Are there any questions or upgrades to the submitted minutes?
There was one addition after the minutes were distributed the first time. Under committee reports, the district did add in the first paragraph that those amendments to the regulations were released for a 30-day public comment period. Those have been incorporated into the minutes.
So we do have
They've already been changed.
change to the minutes. The minutes, stand approved as submitted. Thank you. Any other unfinished business, Mr. Talbot?
No, sir.
Public comment? Sorry. So we, on new business, you have heard the district recommendations, that we adopted regulations as proposed by the district, the 10 amended regulations. What is the board's pleasure? There's a motion to adopt the regulations as proposed by the district. Can we get a second? Second. Any discussions regarding the 10 amended regulations? If not, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed says nay. Motion carries. Moving on. Committee reports. I know at the last month we had the strategy and the policy committee reports. We don't have any more reports.
Those committees have not met in the last month.
Okay. Mr. Talley, staff report.
Thank you, Chairman Hilton. And I too will apologize, a little bit of cold or whatever we call it, iron patient zero there. If he started it or not, a little bit under the weather, so bear with me. And before we get started with the director's report, I'm going to give a brief update on the trust board trust fund from Assistant Director Hamilton.
So our air quality trust fund is a creature of statute, and it requires that we make a report to the board of its funding. We try to put this off, and it is required by statute in June. Metro government closes its books at the end of June, so we're going to give you a report now that will include some additional interest next year. There were no disbursements from the Air Quality Trust Fund in the last fiscal year. Metro's fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. As of today, the balance of the trust fund is $18,175.61, and this includes the only donation of $200 that was made earlier this year from Bellarmine University in honor of the district's presentation at their workshop series. Metro government will allocate interest to the fund at the close of the fiscal year, so it will be included in next year's report.
How is it generally funded? I mean, is it all donations or is it?
It is entirely donations. And it is limited, Steve. It can be used for a very limited set of functions. It can't fund the district's day-to-day operations, but it can be used for special projects and educational opportunities. In the past, it's been used by the board to support the Healthy House with a charging station and some funding for that. It also provided solar panels for our Canyons Lane air monitoring site. Those are the most notable projects in the last couple of years that I can think of. Michelle? Those are two.
Do people make requests?
Yes.
We bring those, the Healthy House charger, for example, Evolve KY along with Louisville Rose partnered on that and they came before the board and made a presentation on that for the public works group.
This is our second request for the charging station. Is that
No,
correct?
they haven't made it another,
Oh,
the
okay.
one that was funded.
So it is a fund of the board, Steve, and it is under the board's direction, which means requests come before the board, and a disbursement is made when a board passes a resolution to make that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I wanted to start out this morning, and I think it's important and a good time and a place to do so, a bit of a reset. I have and my colleagues have made numerous presentations before the board over the past year or so on many different topics, and I felt like it was a good time to kind of reset that baseline, particularly considering that we have several new board members at this time, and so just a good time to kind of do that. Again, over the last year or so, coworkers and I have made numerous presentations, we described and set the stage for and made the case for the many tasks and plans that are before the district that we're undertaking here in the near term. Some have not yet started, others are in the early stages of development and implementation. So I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of walk the board down memory lane just a little bit. This will not be all inclusive, but I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that we brought before you in the last year or so. Bring them kind of up to date, their current status, some of which I hope kind of fall off of the discussion, because some of them we talked about board meeting after board meeting as I try to keep you up to date with it. So let's start with some of our IT initiatives. Acela, the Metro-wide data information system, which we've been talking about for 2 to 3 years now, officially went live for the public today. And so official for us yesterday. So this has been an incredibly long process. Our staff, many folks on our staff have been intimately involved in this process to make sure that this thing can work as well as it can for APCD. And then I want to specifically acknowledge the work of Brian Frazier. I don't know if Brian is in here this morning or not. He has worked not just tirelessly for APCD, but I have no qualms in telling you this project would not be where it is today for Metro-wide, if not for the work of Brian on this project. We have lost a lot of Brian's time here at the district for the work that he's committed to Acela. And so as long as this is taken, I wanted to acknowledge his work. Very happy that it is finally gone live. Do not expect this thing to work perfectly starting out, and so you will hear complaints from us, I'm sure, over time as this regards, but we're just happy to get to this point and start working through whatever issues arise, because we have been in limbo and committed an enormous amount of staff time to this project. OnBase, which is our new document management system, is scheduled to go live 7/1. That is working as we expect. And again, I will point out, this is through the work of APCD. We put out the RFP, we put out the requirements for it, but it will be a system that will be utilized by multiple agencies within Metro government. It will piggyback again on the hard work that we have done here at APCD to bring the system on board. SLICE, our new emissions inventory reporting system, is ready, up for testing. I think plan to be used for the reporting of 2019 data, emissions inventory data in the year 2020. Is that close? Okay. And so again, moving forward with that. And then I said at the last board meeting, the updated version of AirWatch went live 5/1. And we hope to get all of this functionality up and running here really soon. So we talked about most of these IT projects for at least the last year, and some for much longer than that, and most of them are finally coming to fruition. So hopefully, barring just a few complaints, we won't be talking about these, and hopefully we'll have the need to talk about these going forward. Excuse me. On the air monitoring front, work continues with our vendor to maximize the performance and data confidence of our auto GC, our gas chromatograph. And we expect to have it back from a second round of updates and enhancements soon. And I will simply say, obviously we would have liked to have this up and running the way we want it sooner, but I am not overly concerned with the process as it is new technology. We've done good work in identifying the shortcomings of that technology and having them addressed by the vendor, and we will soon have technology out there that will do the work that we need it to do. PAMS is another topic that has been brought before this board many times. It is the photochemical assessment monitoring station. And so I think I mentioned, but if I didn't, I apologize. Despite a proposed 2-year delay by EPA in its implementation, and it in fact was scheduled to be implemented nationwide next month. I think July 19th was the original date. There's a proposal for that to be delayed by 2 years. Having said that, APCD is moving forward with our purchase, installation, implementation of this GC monitoring system. The data from that system and also from our air, from the system will support both our ozone work that we have going forward. It will also support our air toxics monitoring work, having that monitor sitting out in a more central location. So It's going to give us good information, and that's part of the reason we're going to proceed forward with implementing that GC, even though it's been delayed. And then based on the data that we get both from our air toxics monitoring and then from the PAMS GC, there may be new projects or additional work that will evolve from the findings that we get from that information. So obviously, as these come online, we'll keep the board posted on the findings that we have from both. We are beginning work with EPA on a multi-pollutant control strategies that will do several things. It will save money and time. It will achieve significant health, environmental, and economic benefits. Having a strategy that looks at our emission pollution reductions and looks where we can get multiple benefits by reducing a particular emission is just a smart way of going about our work. And so we're working with EPA to look at those things that will give us that kind of multiple reductions and multiple benefits from a single reduction. And so we'll keep you informed of that. It'll just allow us to get a bigger bang for our buck, which bang being cleaner air for the resources that we expend. We talked for the last several years about the RARE project. This is EPA-led research projects. RARE was the regionally applied research effort. And while that original RARE project is actually wrapping up, and that one was for next generation emission monitoring equipment, and that's scheduled to wrap up soon. My hope, and I think the hope of the EPA researchers is that they will find some additional money to keep that research going in some form or fashion. So we think and hope that will take place. Regardless of how that particular research project winds up, we have additional projects that we're working on with EPA that we talked about before this board before. And so the work on the odor app and the odor wheel continues to move forward. And then a second research project looking at VOC tracking for odors is continuing with EPA. So those projects will continue. We think it's a great benefit to the district and then to our community to have EPA in our community conducting this type of research. And so we'll continue with these. We hope to find additional ways to keep EPA involved in the work that we do here locally. I know everyone is aware that we are in non-attainment for ozone, and so we will begin work to address the ozone non-attainment status, and you'll see that start to ramp up aggressively here over the next month or so with research, data collection and analysis, the establishment of stakeholder groups and work groups to begin that needed work to reach attainment. And so to that end, on last month's board meeting, we introduced you to a couple of principal researchers for Rambo. And so that ozone study being conducted by Rambo is officially underway and on schedule. They will do a comprehensive VOC emissions inventory, which will be compiled with a subsequent analysis, and that is to determine whether or not, primarily if the Louisville MSA is NOx or VOC limited, NOx, oxides of nitrogen, and VOC, volatile organic compounds, which I know we've said many times are the principal precursors for ozone. And this study will simply tell us which of those precursors, NOx or VOCs, plays the biggest role in the formation of ozone in this community. It will also give us an idea to the degree to which they impact ozone formation. And that just will be valuable information as we look at which reductions are going to provide the biggest benefit in us addressing ozone, reducing ozone formation, and meeting that new standard. Additionally, and if warranted, if we find VOCs to be the culprit here, we will have an additional study that will look at VOC reactivity specific to the Louisville metro area. And that will, as we've said many times, because all VOCs are not created equal, allow us to address those VOC reductions, targeting those that will provide the largest impact to the reduction of ozone formation in Louisville. On the staffing kind of side, in the last 6 months, we have brought on a second part-time county attorney to concentrate on our enforcement efforts and specifically to provide additional support to our community compliance activities covering dust, open burn, odor, and asbestos. Our community compliance staff works really hard out in the community, some of the toughest jobs here, because virtually no one is happy when they're speaking with them. They have a complaint, or we're telling somebody to fix something. And so I just needed to do a better job of supporting all the work that they do. I think the second county attorney providing some concentrated effort and work supporting their work is going to be beneficial. We want to be able to build stronger legal cases, which will lead to quicker resolution for these investigations when we have to move to enforcement. And I feel comfortable that to date we're already starting to see the fruits of some of that labor as that work has moved along some of those cases, and we're putting processes in place that will help us accomplish a speedier resolution to the work that our community compliance staff does. Excuse me. We have often talked on a more ad hoc, haphazard kind of basis about the need to and the opportunity to collaborate with different metro agencies and also with different agencies outside of the metro. And so what we really wanted to do was put a more focused and formal look at that. And so we're planning and scheduling meetings to formalize some of the more natural collaborative opportunities that will provide some synergy to the work that we do. And so we're scheduling meetings to have ongoing, regularly scheduled meetings with the Louisville Metro Public Health and Wellness, with the Office of Resiliency, and then also with the University of Louisville through the Environment Institute. And so we want to establish regular, ongoing meetings. We want to do this for a few reasons. We need to know what's going on in terms of what other folks are doing for air quality in this community. We want to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts. We want to make sure that we are not stepping on one another's toes, which has happened in the past. And then we also need to make sure that we maximize our collective resources and as we go forward and get the most out of the work that everyone is doing to help clean the air in this community. So those meetings are being scheduled. We hope to make them permanent. And then as we see the need to bring in different agencies that might be doing different things in the community, we'll invite those to those meetings as needed to make sure that we keep as comprehensive a look at all the work that is addressing air quality for us, that we know what's going on, and then that we can allows me to let you know, the board, what is going on out in the community. You know, one of the things I think I told Dr. Powell, I think I've mentioned it to Chairman Hilton, I want to make sure that I give you enough information, because I never want you to be out in the community and have someone ask you about something and you go, I don't know what you're talking about. And so that's why I go over a lot of these things, because I want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So I've talked about a lot of stuff that we're doing here, and I have not even begun to talk about the core work that this agency does on a day-to-day basis. So we got a lot going on without even getting to that. But let's talk about those things that we do on a day-to-day basis. Industrial and asbestos permits still must be written and issued. That work continues. Industrial compliance site visits and report analysis must still be conducted. We do that daily. Our community compliance staff fields complaints on dust, odor, and open burns every day. They continue to need to be investigated. And though we don't talk about them as much, except for ozone, criteria pollutant air monitoring is still a thing. And so we do that daily. Staff works on that continually. And then we have community outreach programs such as CARE, Grow More, Mow Less, Lawn Care for Cleaner Air, and then our new workshop series, which is in this second year, that continue to grow and expand. So all of that work continues. And I have to point out, everything that I've said is happening and taking place amid some very serious and ongoing budget concerns, and we've managed to do this without cutting staff, without cutting programs. And that is our intention moving forward. So having said all of this, what is it that I really want the board to know? What I want to say this morning is that we have outstanding staff here at APCD. My coworkers are amazing, and we continue to do more with less. And that's what we come here to do each morning, and we're happy to do it. It drives us. Our senior leadership Rachel, Michelle, Matt, Steve, Billy, Tom, along with our supervisors, Eva, DJ, the other Rachel, Karen, Tom, Brian, and Kyle. They provide great direction and great guidance to our staff and to the work that we do. Our senior leadership has over 83 years of experience, and our supervisors have over 62 years of experience, and that is just with APCD. That does not include the experience that they brought to the table when they came here to work. And for some folks, that was fairly significant. But again, that is not really what I wanted to talk about this morning. What I really wanted to bring before this board is the 80 to 90% of the day-to-day work that this agency gets done, that gets done by this agency, by people that I have not even mentioned this morning. And that is the rest of our staff. And while I will not mention them by name, though I probably should, they are the ones that make the work that we do happen every day. As good as I think our senior management staff is, as good as I think our supervisors are, the amount of experience that they bring to the table, none of them get done what we get done without the staff that we have behind us, and we have a great staff. You know, I came to this agency and to this position with very little, or actually with no experience. And so the fact that we are here today where we are is because of the experience and the staff that we have. The fact that if I've done one thing well, it is to put good, experienced people into the proper places and positions within this agency. And the fact that one of the things when we went through the reorg we concentrated on was everybody understanding all the work of this agency, what every piece, what everybody does, how important that is. And that's just a complicated way of saying that we need to foster additional teamwork. I ask a lot of questions because I need to. I listen to a lot of answers and opinions and suggestions. I assure the board that I am never at a loss from the rest of the staff in terms of getting opinions and suggestions and direction as to how we should do the work that we do at this agency. But that is absolutely a good thing. That's how we do the best work. All the opinions, the discussions, the disagreements, and we have a fair amount of disagreement among senior staff about what we should do, how we should do it, when we should do it. All of that is as it should be, and it allows us as a management team to make very thoughtful, very well-vetted decisions as we go forward. That kind of discussion internally allows me to understand options and consequences of the decisions that I have to make. It allows me to know plan B when I, in fact, am picking plan A. But I know what it is because we've talked about it. People told me what they think is the best way to go. And so I know where I stand in that regard. And I may not always be right, but I'll have plan B there because folks have already told me what it should be. And so we're prepared to move forward, and we will make mistakes, but that's all right. That's just part of the deal. And lastly, we do a great job, not a good job, we do a great job of trying to learn from our mistakes, because we will make mistakes. We talk about them daily. We talk about the opportunity to do better today than what we did the day before. And so that's what's going to make us successful going forward. I have a whiteboard in my office that has 3 quotes across the top, and I read them daily. And the first quote relates to how management views its co-workers and how it values them, and it reads, I start with the premise that the function of management is to produce more leaders, not more followers. And that is how you foster continuous improvement. And so that's the attitude, that's the culture that we really want to bring. And we work on it daily. We're not doing it perfect yet, but that's what we strive to do. I have 2 guiding principles I think it's important for the board to know in terms of the prism through which I try to make some really tough decisions around here. And so I try to prioritize and make decisions based on what will make the air cleaner tomorrow than it is today. So you tell me something, we have to make a decision. One of the first things I think about, is that decision going to help clean the air? Is it going to make it better? That's the first one. The second thing that I try to do is understand that our community, like so many communities across the country, we have equity issues. And so we must try to make decisions that allow us to address and account for those equity imbalances in our community within our authority to do so. And so those are the two guiding principles, the overriding kind of guiding principles that I use to make decisions, to look at the information that I'm given, and to move this agency forward. I am sure that I have missed something here, so Rachel, Billy, Matt, anyone, if there's anything I missed that you want to add to that as we try to reset the baseline here for the board.
Any questions or comments from the board? I appreciate your update, so it gives us some insight on actually what's going on. So a lot of folks ask me what's going on, so it gives me a great deal of information that I can talk intelligent about what's happening down there. And I appreciate that update. It's great because people always give me feedback, especially around the site inspection. I understand most of the companies, they're really pleased with the professionalism and knowledge of the site inspectors. You know, a lot of companies don't want to see people coming on their site and talking about what's right and what's wrong. They always say, because they always act very professional, very knowledgeable. So that's good to hear that.
I would expect no less. So I have a little time, so I'll catch up on a few other ancillary items. I wanted to make sure I got that first part in first. So I will let the board know that we, and I think I'll let you know I was going to do it. We did do the radio show with WFPL, Sterling Cunningham, and then Michelle Roberts, which is a nationally based environmental justice advocate, were also on there, and she was representing Edmund Cochran regarding Rubbertown. I think it went really well. I actually got some positive feedback from folks who happened to hear the radio show. And it was just a good opportunity again for us to talk about the work that we do out in the community, and that's just important. Never want to forget to do this. The Clearing the Air workshop, we had one on 5/20. It was air quality and greenhouse gases back in May. We just had one this past Monday, and it was to learn about navigating the district's webpage and some of our social media efforts. And then July 17th, one of our favorite topics will be on board for the workshop series, and that is odors. And so odors and emergency management. Emergency response. And so it's just good work going on with that. And always want to make sure the board is aware of that. And then encourage you, as always, if you have the opportunity to attend those, a lot of good information, then the opportunity to interact with the public at those meetings. Michelle and I attended the Metro 4 conference in Atlanta this past month. As always, it's great information, interaction, a lot of pertinent information and updates about the work that we do and the rest of the agencies in the Southeast region. We had the opportunity to meet with Metro Councilwoman Nicole George. We met with her staff. Just a brief ABCD 101. Again, an opportunity to talk about the work we do, what we can't do, which is sometimes just as important information. I think it went really well. She was very receptive to that discussion. So much so, in fact, that she requested that we will conduct a second meeting with Councilwoman George and take her out to one of our sites to show her how our monitoring takes place. And so that'll be the second opportunity. We took Councilwoman Dorsey out to one of our sites. And so we continually look for this opportunity because it really is important for council to understand the work that we do as they look for opportunities to cut budget, and they need to understand this is not a place to do it. So when I have that opportunity to pass that word along, I do so. I tell you these things, so if we have the opportunity to interact with council folks, let them know we need our money to do the work that we do because it's important. Attended a meeting again with Michelle this past Monday with City on Science, which is a University of Louisville program going on, I think, through the Environment Institute. It is a community-driven, community-led kind of discussion. The topic this past Monday was on a paper by a U of L professor entitled, and I can't remember his name. Do you remember?
Ray Yeager was the
lead author on the paper, but it was residential greenness and cardiovascular disease risk. And so he talked about some of those early findings, which indicated, I think, what we all would assume, that there was a positive effect on health with increased greening around, and this was strictly based on where your home was located. So the early evidence shows that the greener your home surroundings is a positive impact on your health from a cardiovascular standpoint. I think what it really pointed out, though, was the need for additional work and additional study to be conducted so that we can quantify those and then come up with policies and programs and plans to help improve everyone's health based on those understandings. The other part of that is understanding that, again, there are equity issues in terms of greening. And so that was a part of that conversation. And we understand which communities and which neighborhoods need to have that happen first. And so I was pleased to see that that was a part of the discussion in the paper, and then a part of the discussion within that group, and understanding the need to, again, address the inequities that exist in our community. Lastly, Rachel attended the Rivertown Community Action Advisory Council meeting on last night. She presented on STAR, update for them on STAR, our criteria pollutants, and a short discussion on odors. And Rachel, I'll let you make any comments regarding that meeting. Good meeting, bad meeting?
It was a good meeting. It was last Thursday night. Last night, Michelle and I attended the West Jefferson County Community Task Force. With the rollout of Metro 311, folks will be having a new opportunity to use an app to lodge complaints, not just for APCD, but also for all of Metro various business functions. So we look forward to using that new platform. If people have questions, by all means, please have them call us. With respect to how APCD will take complaints, it's a standing kind of joke. We'll take them every way but a smoke signal. Calls always work. Email always works. Smell My City is there for folks who want to use it. And then the Metro 311 app is there, but you can also call Metro Call 311 and speak to an operator there. So we hope to continue to see a robust reporting of issues. Appreciate the opportunity to have my say on Metro 311.
She had, Mrs. Hampton received a lot of questions from the audience last night. A lot of enthusiasm about that new program. So I thought personally it went very well.
And she didn't say it, and I'll say it. We have pushed very hard from the very beginning of this project with Acela to make sure they had an effective communication plan. We told everybody we could tell as many times as we could tell them that is important for our community, and again, especially for disadvantaged parts of our community, that they understand how this works and how they can access government and make complaints that they need to make. We will do what we can, as we always do, and we will hope that Metro follows through with an effective communication plan so that this community can reach Metro government. Rachel wouldn't say it. We knew that was an issue. We knew it was an important issue. And I'll just be very honest. It's not over and done, but we don't feel like it's been done as well. Obviously, we always think we know the best way to do everything, so we're willing to tell folks that. It's just important that they do so. So unless there are any other questions from any of the board members, we do have a short presentation by Billy DeWitt, who's the member of our air monitoring program. Just to bring you up to date again, it's a good reset opportunity to talk about where we stand with our criteria pollutants relative to the NACs. Billy?
Thank you, Director Talley. Chairman Gilman, board members, I just want to give you a brief update on the status of some notable design values. And first, I'll start out by discussing a little bit how those design values come about. The primary focus of the ambient air monitoring program is to monitor for NACs, or National Ambient Air Quality Standards, and those are set forth by federal regulation in 40 CFR Part 50. Those are carbon monoxide, lead, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, particle pollution, and sulfur dioxide. They all have individual averaging times and standards, and those are based on health and exposure studies. The design values come about, they're metrics that are compared to the NACs to determine the compliance of our area. Each pollutant has a unique design value calculation. The goal from this table is to produce a one-year number, but the non-attainment designation is based on 3 years of complete data. So that 1 year calculations above this design value does not constitute non-attainment. This is just a snapshot of the monitoring network in our core-based statistical area. APCD operates 5 monitoring sites. Indiana Department of Environmental Management operates 2 of those sites. Kentucky Division of Air Quality operates 2 of those sites. The data from all these sites go into creating our design values. The tricky part is any one monitor from any of those stations can take us into non-attainment, but it takes all the stations below the design value to be in attainment. Data certification is an intensive process we undergo. It's just an extension of what we do every day in our quality assurance program. We mentioned before, we take in over 300 million data points a year, minute averages, and we use those to verify and quality assure about 350,000 hourly averages to go into these calculations. It takes us about 90 days at the end of each quarter to fully quality assure that quarter's data. And then once we finish with that, we reevaluate the yearly data set based on statistics, summaries, and QA data. And then we get to a point to where we're ready to certify that data. And it comes out in a report that involves a lot of statistics. You want to see green on these reports, so that's a good thing. If you see any other color, that means you have a data completeness issue, which could affect attainment issues, or some other metric is out of balance. We put in a yes flag to ask EPA to certify this data. They go in and either concur or don't. And it's not until that process is complete that the data is ready for a design value calculation. And here's an example of the Air Quality Board report that the board sees each month. This is for SO2. Highlighted in yellow is the design value calculation for 2016 to 18. And remember that the data we provide on a monthly basis is not yet fully quality assured, but we want to provide this information to keep an ongoing idea of where we stand in comparison to the NACs. And the blue highlight is 2017 to 2019. Obviously that number is going to change as we still have half of 2019 to factor into that data and a lot more quality assurance to go. Once we do certify data, these numbers can change a little bit if we pull out some due to quality assurance issues, or sometimes just simple rounding may change the numbers slightly. And then we'll go back and update future board reports. The SO2 history, now that we've got a certified data set, our design value for SO2 for 2016 to 2018 is 19 parts per billion. That's well below the standard there you see in the shaded area of 75 parts per billion. And so we've come a long way on SO2, and we remain well under the standard there. Again, a snapshot of our particulate matter, PM 2.5. There's a couple of standards for particulate matter. This one is the annual design value. The other is the 24-hour averages that go into an annual mean. We don't really get anywhere close to that design value as far as violation. We only get near that on days such as July 4th, or if there's fires in the area. Historically, we've been much closer, right on the border of these annual design values. The design value is now 12. So in yellow, you see highlighted 16 through 18, we calculated at 9.4. And our current value for 17 through 19, we're at 9.9. And then we look at the overall history. We've been right around the standard, even as it dropped. We still been right around that standard now with the actual design value of 9.4. The certified design value, we remain nicely under that standard as well. As Director Kelly mentioned a few moments ago, ozone remains our issue with the criteria pollutants. 2016 to 18 number, the highest number is 75, which is 5 parts per billion over the standard of 70. We don't provide updated numbers for 17 through 19 yet, because the ozone season starts March 1st, and until we really get into the heart of ozone season, the numbers don't really mean a whole lot. And our history here is that we've been kind of all over the place. A lot of this depends on meteorology. 2012 was a very bad year for ozone. 2013 and 14 were very light years for ozone due to a very active ozone season as far as weather patterns were concerned. The design value dropped in 2015 from 75 parts per billion down to 70 parts per billion. So we are struggling with that standard as we sit now at 75 parts per billion. And Director Talley mentioned we're doing many things to see where we need to go to address that standard. So that's just a quick update on our data certification and where we stand on some of the design values of note. The other pollutants that I didn't mention are, we really aren't as concerned as much with those. They still go under through the same data scrutiny. It's just that they've traditionally been much lower and below the national standard. Yes, sir.
With the three pollutants you talked about, each of them seems to have pretty significant decline starting at it's hard for me to read, but 2012. Is there a reason for that?
Reasons for each pollutant, I think particulate matter are a lot of national initiatives as far as trying to incorporate things into combustion controls. I think SO2 is a lot of that's a local initiative by Mill Creek Power Plant, putting on a lot of controls. And we saw SO2 drop drastically after that was instituted.
That's all around 2012.
I believe that was around 2013,
Can you put the SO2 chart back up?
Yeah.
That's a significant decline.
So what we know here too, and Billy's correct, that this is due to $2 billion projects that LGD undertook.
Okay.
In 2010, rulemaking went through from US EPA on the maps, that's part of this. LGD began construction at Cane Run and Mill Creek in early 2015. Cane Run converted mid-2015 from coal to natural gas, and then they brought Mill Creek, which has 4 units, back up in a phased process that started in 2015 and ended in mid-2016. And so you just see that SO2 as a primary pollutant, and then you see some of those reductions too as a secondary pollutant in the PM monitoring as well.
Graphically, it's pretty significant.
We like that.
What exactly did that 75 part per billion 1 hour standard come into effect?
That standard went into effect in 2010.
2010. So, see, that's the short answer to that is regulation and technology. Why it's continued to come down over the past 20, 30 years since the passage of the Clean Air.
It is, and some of those reductions in SO2 are also due to transportation-related reductions from fueling, diesel fuel, sulfur content to engine standards. So we benefit a lot from those national programs as well. That's a great story.
Any other questions? Thank you for the update. Well, see, I think are there any questions on the submitted iron throttle data that was been submitted? I guess the rain has helped a lot for the ozone, hasn't it? All this rainy weather. Enforcement status report, any questions on that? What about the access emission report? Any questions on that? No questions, comments? The complaint, we got investigation status report. Any questions or comments regarding that report? being no further questions or comments, meeting is adjourned until Wednesday, July the 17th. Thank you for your attendance.